Admiral Marcus Grant was a man of dignity, honor, and an unshakable sense of duty. At 52, his presence was commanding, with a tall, upright figure and a calm but firm demeanor that spoke volumes about his years of service in the Navy. Born and raised in Atlanta, Marcus had worked his way up from a modest background to become one of the most respected officers in the United States Navy. His medals and accolades weren't just for show. They told a story of countless missions, lives saved, and battles fought with integrity. It was a crisp autumn morning in a small suburban town in Virginia. Marcus had just returned from an exhausting 6-month overseas deployment. He decided to spend a quiet weekend visiting an old friend, a retired colonel who lived in the countryside. Marcus wasn't in his usual military attire. He wore a simple navy blue sweatshirt and jeans, blending in with the other travelers on the road. The town was peaceful, and the streets were lined with red and orange leaves. Marcus drove a black SUV he'd rented at the airport. The GPS guided him through winding roads, past farmlands and neighborhoods. As he approached the town square, he noticed a police cruiser behind him. The officer in the cruiser was Deputy Eric Caldwell. Eric was young, in his late 20s, and fresh out of the academy. Though he wanted to make a difference in his community, he was known for his strict adherence to rules, sometimes bordering on overzealousness. He was eager to prove himself, and that eagerness sometimes clouded his judgment. Eric had been sitting in his cruiser near the square when he noticed Marcus's SUV. The tinted windows and out-of-state plates caught his attention. He decided to follow the car. His curiosity piqued. As Marcus slowed down to stop at a traffic light, Eric flicked on his sirens. Hearing the wailing siren, Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror, puzzled. He carefully pulled over to the side of the road. Eric approached the SUV, his hand resting on his holster. "License and registration," Eric said, his tone firm. Marcus nodded, remaining calm. "Of course, officer. May I ask why I'm being stopped?" Eric's eyes narrowed. "This vehicle looks suspicious. Do you own it?" Marcus kept his composure, though the question stung. "It's a rental. I just flew in last night." Eric glanced at Marcus's ID and registration, his skepticism apparent. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus hesitated. "Officer, is there a specific reason for this?" Eric's voice grew sharper. "Step out of the car, now." Marcus sighed but complied, stepping out slowly. He stood tall, his years of training evident in his posture. Eric noticed the calm confidence in Marcus's demeanor, but his suspicion only grew. "Where are you headed?" Eric asked. "I'm visiting a friend," Marcus replied evenly. Eric's radio crackled, but he ignored it, focusing on Marcus. "Do you have anything in the vehicle I should know about?" "No, officer. Would you like to search it?" Marcus asked, keeping his tone neutral. Eric hesitated but nodded. "Step to the side." As Eric began inspecting the SUV, a small crowd started gathering nearby. Some passers-by whispered to each other, their eyes darting between Marcus and the officer. A middle-aged woman named Linda, who owned a cafe across the street, watched the scene unfold. She knew the town well and had never seen Marcus before, but something about the situation didn't sit right with her. "Excuse me, officer," Linda called out, stepping closer. "Is everything all right here?" Eric looked up briefly. "Ma'am, please stay back." Marcus remained silent, his hands in his pockets. He could feel the weight of the stares around him, the unspoken assumptions. After searching the vehicle and finding nothing, Eric returned to Marcus. "You're free to go," he said, though his tone lacked any apology. Marcus looked at him, his gaze steady. "Next time, officer, consider how you approach someone. Not everyone deserves suspicion." Eric's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. As Marcus got back into his car and drove away, the onlookers dispersed, and Linda shook her head, muttering under her breath. Marcus arrived at his friend's house an hour later, but the encounter lingered in his mind. He had faced prejudice before, even as a decorated officer, but something about this felt different. It wasn't just about him, it was about a system that still judged people by appearances. But wait, there's more. In part 2, we'll uncover the shocking truth about the officer. Don't miss it.